John Wick will make his incredible return to theaters this May, but before you go see the third chapter, Parabellum, you'll need a refresher on everything that's happened. Don't worry, you won't have to watch the other two movies again, although you should because they're simply incredible. We're going to break down everything you missed in the last two movies and what you can expect from Parabellum. It all started with a puppy and a car. It will end with the loss of more than any one person could ever imagine. The first movie begins with a grieving John Wick. John had lost his wife to a terminal illness just days before, and her final act was the delivery of a puppy to John. This puppy was the physical embodiment of his wife's dying breath. Meant as a tool for John to grieve for, John quickly takes to the puppy. He takes the puppy out for a joyride in his vintage 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1, where he has a choice encounter with a group of Russian gangsters. These gangsters would be the son and henchmen of the violent crime lord Viggo Tarasov. They ask John how much he wants for the car, with John denying any of their advances. Most people would leave it at that.
How much for the car?
She's not for sale.
But the spoiled child of Viggo, Joseph Tarasov, won't take no for an answer. In retaliation, the gangsters follow John home at night. They beat him senseless, kill his dog, and steal the car. Bad move. John makes his way over to a chop shop run by an associate of Viggo's to see where his car is. The chop shop owner, Aurelio, recounts his encounter with Joseph over a strong glass of tequila. With his hands shaking, Aurelio just prays that John doesn't kill him right there. As Aurelio flashes back to his meeting with Joseph, we learn a key detail about him. Joseph is reckless, selfish, and ignorant. Aurelio punches him in the face and kicked him out of the shop. Viggo himself calls Aurelio to find out why he struck his son.
I heard you struck my son.
Because you stole John Wick's car, sir, and killed his dog.
After learning about Joseph's misdeeds, Viggo hangs up on him, absolved of any wrongdoing. Viggo instantly understands the severity of the situation. When Joseph returns to Viggo's home, he is taught a harsh lesson by his father. Viggo tells his son, "It's not what you did that angers me so, it's who you did it to."
It's not what you did, son, that angers me so. It's who you did it to.
Joseph then learns what grave danger he's in. His father told him all about the Baba Yaga, otherwise known as the Boogeyman. They do not fear the Boogeyman, as John Wick is the man they sent to kill the Boogeyman. This sets in motion the wheels that would end all of New York burning to the ground. Viggo calls John personally to resolve the issues he has with their family. Right before receiving the call, John has begun work to open up his cache of weapons and money that he had cemented into the ground. This opening of his cache is a literal metaphor for what Joseph has done. Joseph has opened Pandora's box. John hangs up on Viggo, and in response, he sends a hit squad to attempt to eliminate him. Afterward, John dispatches them and has their bodies removed. A $2 million bounty is put on his head.
I'd like to make a dinner reservation for 12.
He personally extends this bounty to John's mentor, Marcus, before opening it up. Afterwards, he heads to the Continental Hotel, a safe haven for the criminal underworld. The Continental Hotel has a strict no business on premises policy, and thus gives John a place to recoup, for now. John will come to learn from Winston, the hotel's owner, that Joseph is hiding in the Red Circle nightclub, heavily guarded and armed to the teeth. That doesn't deter him as he massacres his way through the nightclub. In the panic, Joseph escapes with the help of his henchmen, whose fates weren't as fortunate. After the bloodbath, John Wick retreats back to the hotel to recover. However, an assassin sneaks into his room to retrieve the bounty upon his head. Fortunately, Marcus alerts John to the attempted assassination and subdues the assassin. She would later escape, killing an employee of the Continental. After interrogating her for some time, she reveals where the Tarasov family is hiding. Remember how we mentioned those strict policies? The assassin would end up having her membership revoked by Winston himself. And by strict, they mean death. They really weren't kidding about those policies. Moving on, John makes his way to the Little Russia church where the family is hiding their stash of money, guns, and blackmail material. By the time the family arrives, John ambushes Viggo but ends up being captured instead. Viggo doesn't take kindly to this and eggs John on, although he brings up some good points. Now that John is back into his old job, there is no escape.
This life follows you.
His mentor Marcus intervenes again, allowing him to free himself and interrogate Viggo. He reluctantly but expectedly gives up Yosef's hiding location. He quickly dispatches many of Yosef's bodyguards from afar before chasing Yosef down and exacting his revenge. The whole affair is dispassionate, hinting that maybe Jhon still thinks he can resume a normal life. To finish off all loose ends, Wick heads to a harbor helipad to kill Vigo, all thanks to a tip from Winston. After arriving, he makes quick work of the bodyguards. Jhon isn't so lucky when facing Vigo himself. After receiving critical injuries in the fight, he breaks into a vet clinic and patches himself up. Jhon would take a pit bull from the clinic set to be euthanized. The two walk home together on the boardwalk where he and his wife had their first date. Fast forward 4 days after the first film, Jhon retrieves his stolen car from Abram Tarasov, the brother of Vigo. After violently dispatching his henchmen, he spares Abram in an attempt to create peace. Jhon begins work rebuilding his home and cements his weapons and gold into the ground once again. Again, this is the literal metaphor for Jhon finally being free from this hellish life. However, it won't last long. After taking his car to be repaired, he is approached by Italian crime lord Santino D'Antonio. We learn that a debt is owed to him for his help in letting John Wick leave the assassination business. A contract had been made with Santino, a blood oath or marker as they call it. Jhon denies Santino, stating that he isn't working anymore.
For a man to grant a marker to another is to bind a soul to a blood oath.
Santino retaliates, destroying Wick's home with a grenade launcher. Oh, well, I guess we're back at square one again. Jhon retreats to the Continental Hotel where Winston informs Jhon that the blood oath he made is unbreakable. Under this advice, Jhon accepts Santino's offer and has him assassinate his sister Gianna. Greedily, he wants her killed so he can take her seat upon the high table. To complete his task, he heads to Rome and infiltrates Gianna's coronation into the high table. Eventually, he finds his way into Gianna's bathhouse and the two exchange pleasantries. Gianna enters the bath and ends her own life, but warns Jhon of what might come of this.
Let me tell you what happens when I die.
After being spotted by her bodyguards, he narrowly escapes before being caught by Santino's henchmen. They tie him up with the intention of tying up any loose ends. I guess they didn't get the memo about John Wick because he eventually escapes and kills all of Santino's henchmen. Jhon is chased by Gianna's bodyguard Cassian into the Rome Continental. This branch of the Continental shares the same policies as New York.
Do I need to remind you that there will be no business conducted on the Continental grounds?
The two share a drink inside the Continental, and Cassian learns John's intentions. Even after learning Jhon was only repaying a marker, Cassian vows to end John's life. Cassian pays for his drink as a professional courtesy and leaves the bar. This is important late in the movie. After returning to New York, Santino creates a $7 million contract on Wick's head, because apparently Santino didn't learn a thing from Vigo. This is all a ruse though, as he spins it as though he is avenging his sister's death. I mean, you'd think Jhon would have seen this coming. He is John Wick after all. After many failed assassination attempts, Cassian catches up with Jhon where the two fight. Wick overpowers Cassian but leaves him alive. Jhon spares his life as a professional courtesy.
Consider this a professional courtesy.
The two share a mutual respect, and while a life is more valuable than a drink, Jhon nonetheless spares him anyway. Jhon eventually makes his way back to the Continental, where Santino plans to hide indefinitely. Winston warns Wick of the repercussions of what might come to be of this. Jhon disregards these policies and kills him anyway right in the lounge. The next day after resting, Winston explains to Jhon what must be done. Per the high table, the contract on his head has been doubled and offered globally. Winston declares Jhon officially excommunicado. In an effort to assist Jhon, Winston sets his official excommunicado for exactly 1 hour from their meeting. This gives Jhon time to plan and escape. Winston also gives Jhon a marker for any future favors Jhon might need. Jhon gives a warning that anyone who seeks to complete the bounty will be killed. In the final scene, Jhon runs through the park as dozens of people receive a notification on their cell phones. This signals that there are more people invested in this criminal underworld than the series has let on. In the two trailers we have for John Wick 3, we start to learn just how severe a situation Jhon is in. Many of the people he encounters in the trailer urge him that there is no escape. Any efforts he makes are in vain. Just in the trailer alone, we count dozens of deaths. However, there seems to be a power struggle between those with Jhon and those against. There seems to be as many people helping him as there are looking for his head. We even see Winston assisting him in his old hotel, despite the strict policies. Although this could be payment for Winston's marker, In any case, Winston seems all too eager to assist John in the ruthless dispatch of the High Table Assassins. Now that you're all caught up with John Wick, was there anything you missed before? This series is riddled with subtle hints and lines that can be easy to miss. Amidst all the bloodshed, the movies do a fantastic job of bringing subtle civility in a world of ruthlessness. What was your favorite movie in the series? Are you excited for the newest movie due out May 17th? Drop us a comment down below and let us know what you think of John Wick. Don't forget to hit subscribe too, as we'll have tons of content about the series as soon as it hits theaters.